Well, hello, welcome. Currency recap time, Joe with you here. It's Thursday, the 2nd of October, getting into my favorite month of the year. Although the markets haven't really given us much, at least today. Let's take a look at it. You guys got my 2 cents. You know how this works. Take responsibility for what you follow along with this in all our classes. Let's take a look at the meaningful news of the day. Let's take a look at some stuff technically. And unfortunately, folks, I don't have trades today, but we got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it.
All trades and analysis in this video are intended for professional traders only. This content does not constitute financial advice and is for educational purposes. This video is being released after a short delay due to Compliance Department review. Maverick members receive this content immediately as part of their daily trading resources. If you're ready to level up, consider joining Maverick Currencies. Our traders trade firm capital and keep 70 to 80% of profits. You bring the skill, we provide the backing. Let's get into today's market recap and see how the pros are trading the currency markets.
As we get into the market analysis, let's just get straight into it. So the government still shut down. It shut down yesterday, the U.S. government, I should say, as negotiations continue. Now, in the meantime, folks, yesterday we had a pretty decent day. The NASDAQ actually closed today at new all-time highs. It was a little higher. It was a little bit of a gap down. The motion of the trading today, at least in the U.S. indices, was pretty much up, down, and up. But they did close higher. The S&P is right at its high. The INDU set a new high. But we're not seeing too much change in bullish sentiment when it comes to the equity markets in the U.S. So let's take a look at where we finished. The yen flat, the dollar up slightly, but look at that, 0.12, the franc, the euro, pound, CAD, Aussie, flat. Not a lot of currency action. We'll take a look at the charts, but not much going on. The Aussie's up by 0.2%. I mean, it's just coming off of a bottom and kind of just flattening. Where I did see a move was into crypto. S&P flat today, 0.06%. Once again, it was high, it was down, it moved kind of to break even. It was kind of back and forth. So more of a consolidation move, folks, than any sort of a move up or down. World index a little higher. Crypto, 2.27%. We'll take a look at those individually. As you'll see, velocity shows a much different picture. Gold with a slight drop, but oil had a pretty good fall, down 1.72%. It's been going down for the last couple of days. But gold, it's had that really good run as of late, and it's just kind of hanging in there. So let's take a look at the cryptos. Here we go. Bitcoin Cash, down slightly on Cash, Ethereum, Litecoin, they're all up. So we'll take a look at what those charts give us. So our outlook hasn't changed. You can see, let's just go straight into it. You can see that we've had a bullish move. This was a reversal candle confirmation here. Indecisive day. I talked a little bit about this, kind of a bullish engulfing candle, kind of a pattern I look forward to see if we can actually push higher. And it has. It really has. So gap down though. I mean, these candles aren't, close at a number, open at that number and move higher or lower. It's usually a gap down, a gap up, a gap. So we are seeing a lot of push and pull when it comes to day after day. However, the end of day gives the candle that kind of confirms the pattern itself. So this is another ascending triangle pattern, which is broken out. Now, although the move today was to the downside, it still closed higher than previous slightly. So we'll see if we get more consolidation. But I would expect this based on some of the things that have been going on, at least in the U.S. and the impact it might have, at least in the short term, for the equity markets themselves. So I'm just going to keep it at, hey, it's a +3. We're moving higher. Day to day, maybe when it comes for the week, I'd probably be a little bit more cautious, something like a 0. But we'll have to see where things go. Speaking of that, let's take a look at some economic news. What's made it difficult for the U.S. is the government has shut down. So we are going to miss some announcements. Let's just jump straight down into this tentative announcements area. The average hourly income, non-farm, which is one we like, the unemployment rate. We did miss, folks, and you can see it's not up here, but we did not get a jobless claims or factory orders. 2 things that were supposed to be reported but weren't because of the shutdown itself. I've been speaking a little bit about some of these economic numbers as of late, and they're very difficult to read. Here's the ADP non-farm employment saw a revision. This was at a 54K surplus, and they revised it down to a 3K loss. This is expected to be a 52K jobs created, which is a slight low than the 54 expected, but it dropped to a 32K job cut. So some big moves here. So what I've done lately, and I told this to the equity side, is I've kind of thrown these numbers out. I know that we're in a back and forth when it comes to the U.S. government, and some of these numbers could be off or whatnot. But I do follow the sentiment. And the idea is, are the markets going up or are the markets going down? What currency is increasing in value? What currency is decreasing in value? Most of the time, at least with me in my Forex trading, I lean on some of these economic reports to kind of gauge if the currency is going to increase or decrease. But it's been super, super difficult as of late, at least with the US dollar. So I have to kind of throw these out and just kind of chart, at least for the short term. So let's just jump into our currency analysis and take a look at what's happened today. And not a lot of movement. Let's get started here. Here's the yen. The yen has had a pretty good move. It is one of the stronger currency as of late. I do like the breakout that it had here. Stair-stepping, push higher, consolidating. It was very easy for me to be pretty much glass half full on this one and keep it as one of my strongest. Now, I'm not going to +3. I'm going to go +2 on this, and the reason being is because things can change. We know how volatile the U.S. can have when it comes to an impact on some of these currencies, and more importantly, what the currencies react to when it comes to some of these announcements. I see a decrease here in the RSI. That doesn't bother me at all. That's fine. It's comfortably above that 50. It's the consolidation at this area, which kind of leans me towards, okay, let's just give it a break. I'm definitely a +2. But we'll see if it can consolidate and see what happens with some changes in the U.S. or other currencies. Speaking of which, let's just get straight to the U.S. The U.S. did close higher, but you could see it's also been trending lower. I like to see a currency react to expectations of interest rate cuts or increases. And I did see that for a little bit when Powell comes out and says, look, we might be a little stronger than I think. I don't think we're going to cut as aggressively. And I actually got to see, hey, wow, it actually moved higher. And then a little bit of worries about weakness in the future, and the currency starts to move lower. Okay. However, it's not really giving me anything past that. We did have this nice, slow, steady move back down, but it is at these levels that we've seen before. The RSI shows that it did come off of its top. It didn't quite get too low, but it is still hovering around or just at that 50. So I didn't want to give it anything too bullish because I don't think the dollar's out of any sort of problem just yet. So I kept it at a 0. It makes it difficult. So what do? I set it aside. Let's move to the franc. I've got the franc at a -1. Some of the reason being is we have an established lower high. We saw some support broken. We've got a level that's pretty strong, and it looks like it might try to roll over. I don't like where the RSI is here. It looks like it might climb back, so I don't want to give it something like a -2 or anything. But it is definitely out of favor. If this starts to slide, then it's going to get a little bit weaker than where it's at. So I kept it as a -1, but we'll see if it can hang on where it's at. Moving on to the euro. The euro I kept as a -1 as well. It is pretty much at its make or break point. You can see there's some lines that have already been drawn here by our traders, but it's consolidating throughout this area. And so if this momentum continues to the downside, the RSI seems like it's hovering just below that 50. It might climb back up, but if we see a little bit of a fall, increasing the momentum to the downside, it could establish a continuation of what it's already been doing. It's already been breaking levels. So I didn't want to really punish it once again, and we didn't get very much movement at all, percentage-wise, when it comes to currencies. So I'll just keep it at a -1 for now. Moving over to the pound. The pound seems to be a little bit more stable for less of, that's a strange thing to say, considering that this has been really bouncing around and creating all sorts of fun ranges. I guess what my main focus is when I see these two areas of larger support, I've seen a pretty good try for the RSI to push there, and it climbed back. Now, it didn't climb back up to this higher level, but it stayed for as long as it could at that 50. Then it tried, here we go again, tried to push below. in this same area, and it didn't work. RSI came back. Maybe this just is a little bit of a balance or less pressure in the selling side of things. But it really has a hard time getting back up to the higher end of this RSI. So right now it's kind of consolidating. It's keeping this range. It's at a floor here, which is slightly higher than where it's at. So I wanted to go glass half full and just give it a 0. Nothing that I really want to pair against anything. In fact, folks, there's not a lot of trades I want to make against anything out here right now because they're not doing anything. Let's continue on. Let's take a look at the CAD. Now, the CAD did show some weakness. It actually did break some levels. I was watching. You guys can see these lines. Let me double them up. Broke this level here. A little bit of a retest at that level. Broke down. We broke below levels that I saw a little while ago, and we're just at this low consolidation. The RSI seems to be comfortably below that 50. It's not like it's getting punished any worse, but it seems to be just a little bit out of favor. And I put the CAD as a -2 from where it's at, but it's something that's just really not showing a lot of strength and just kind of meandering sideways for now. Let's move on to our risk ons. Here's the Aussie. The Aussie's in kind of a pullback, and at first I was thinking this could be some sort of a trade that I could put against something weaker, but I just don't like how it, you can call that a pullback or consolidation, that it's bleeding a little lower. Now it does have a larger area of support through here. That's fine, but when I see high highs and high lows, I get kind of bummed out when I see something start to break. Now, it doesn't mean it can't retrace and consolidate. Even the RSI says, hey, look, man, we're going to try to pin ourselves around that 50, which I imagine it might. And that's why I really didn't want to punish it. I'm going to give it a +1. I still like the higher lows and the higher highs, but it's a little deeper of a pullback to give it a +2. So I kept it as a +1, but it still shows a little bit of promise, at least volatility-wise. Taking a look at the Kiwi, it's a different story, but I did give it a +1. And the reason being is because I kind of had to score it that way. I've got an RSI that's moved higher. It's above the 50. Sure, it's coming down, but it's still showing some strength. I'm seeing some levels broken here. A little bit of a resistance, right? So it broke above that, consolidated, moved higher. So I've got kind of a higher low going on, and it seems to be consolidating again. So whether it fizzles out to the downside or stays sideways, it's still showing a little bit of a strength. It's nothing that I really want a +2, +3, but it's definitely something that's no longer super, super weak. I mean, this was a -1, -2 for a while, and it seems to just kind of be changing its gears. All right, let's jump into our cryptos. It's the velocity in the cryptos that are super hard to gauge. But over the last couple of days, we know we had a U.S. government shutdown, but it seems like the cryptos decided to shoot higher. This is Bitcoin. Bitcoin was pretty obvious. The RSI really never retraced. It's in an area that's very interesting. It's moving higher, setting highs, breaking above resistance levels. It's on a little bit of an extended move here, but it's a +3. Expect a little bit of a correction or consolidation in the future. Cash, remember, crypto cash was actually kind of a negative close, but it's still a pretty good surge. It's moved higher, big bump. The RSI is strong. It's more of a consolidation pattern. So instead of a +3 here, I'm going to give it a +2. If that decides to break up higher, then obviously it's going to be super easy for me to go to a +3. It's just a little bit behind the curve when it comes to the cryptos, at least the ones we follow. Here's Ethereum. Same idea as Bitcoin. An RSI that is well above measurable strength. We've got a resistance area that it broke above and it continues higher. There's optimism in it. So big surge in that. And then we'll take a look at Litecoin. Pretty much the same thing. A little bit more towards the Bitcoin Cash as it kind of shot up and it's more consolidating. So I just put it as a +2. You guys, +3, +2, call it what you will. It's a pretty huge surge. I would imagine mostly kind of a reaction on what we saw in the U.S. markets, but looks like it's kind of a risk on when it at least comes to the cryptos. But understand, folks, that can all change. It just depends on what is announced and what changes happen globally. All right, let's take a look at our overall scores. Here it is. Everything's kind of moved to the upside. I should say the cryptocurrencies have moved to the upside. The Kiwi has actually moved to the upside. It's more of a corrective move so far. The Aussie's pretty decent, but Yen's had a pretty good surge to the upside, but everything else is kind of flat. Not a lot of changes when it comes to any of the major currencies we follow along with. So it becomes super difficult to trade. So I really don't have much that I'm looking for. I want to see what happens, at least down the road, in some of the reactions that we see with some further announcements. So in conclusion, it was a slow day in the currencies outside of the cryptos. The cryptos seemed to have a huge surge to the upside, but nothing else really moved. Oil did retreat. It's been retreating for the last couple of days. Gold has had a pretty good move over the last while, almost about a month or so, and it's just consolidated. It's pulled back slightly, but it's still up at this high base. So I'm not getting any sort of divergence signals that I can actually trade against. I would like to see the US dollar get strong or weak, or the franc drop, or I'm not getting any of that. I'm getting this, whoa, pump the brakes, let's see what happens. Gold continues to just stay where it's at. Oil, it's pretty volatile, dropped a little bit, and then the cryptos surged. So past that, I mean, the U.S. equities seem to be kind of bleeding higher. The NASDAQ set all-time highs. The S&P is right there. I think the Dow set all-time highs a couple of days ago. So it's a difficult market to predict, which we do not want to predict. So I'm going to wait for a little bit more divergence and a little bit more clarity before I start to make more trades. If you do decide to trade, folks, make sure you play relative strength and weakness and just position size correctly. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. We'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.